What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Comparison time, or versus time, whatever you want to call it. We're not going down the AK versus AR rabbit hole. We're definitely not going to get into the ammunition argument. And we're not going to get into the AK versus AR-AK hybrid argument either. We're going to specifically focus on two rifles today. We're going to be comparing the CMMG Mark-47, this is the early generation one, key mod rail and everything, which is an AK-AR hybrid. But like I said, we're not arguing that theory today. We are, however, going to put this rifle directly up against a very well-known brand of AK, the WASR-10 from the Cugir factory in Romania. Although this AK might not look classic anymore, it's pretty much classic. And yes, I know it's actually AKM, but anyway. Now, the reason I want to compare these two directly is because I love the 7.62x39 round. That's why I have both of these guns. And the ability to use these rock and lock magazines in an AR platform, which I'm very familiar with, was just something I couldn't pass up. I find AKs very fun to use, and I find ARs very fun to use. They have their own pros and cons, but I just like them both, period. That's the end of it. I don't pick sides on this one. So with this gun specifically, the Mutant, and I can call it that because it is the original Mutant. Like I said, it's got the old key mod handguard on it. It is the Mark-47, but this is also the Mutant. The magazine situation, which by the way, these are YouTube compliant magazines, I really find it important to be able to use these rock and lock AK magazines if you're going to use an AR style platform, because you have ultimate reliability for this round. This is a tapered round. This is not like your typical 223 round. And with that taper, it needs to follow this banana pattern. The ones for the ARs with the AR style magwell, to go in there, sometimes you have to go up through a bend first, but then it straightens out and you get a bind in there. So not usually super reliable with those types. The Mutant and the Palmetto State Armory KS-47 solved that problem by using these magazines. Now the KS-47 is not the same rifle as this, they're built differently, but they're built on the same principles, same idea. And the 7.62x39 cartridge is something that I feel is superior to 223. It's not as powerful as 308, but it's also not as heavy to lug around as a 308 rifle and the 308 ammunition. It's not the most accurate in the world, which we will show you some accuracy testing, but boy is it a hard hitter. And although it used to be a lot easier to get soft point, hollow point, defensive type of ammunition for AK, you can still get it. Underwood specifically is a company that makes something like Controlled Chaos, pretty good round. You can find it still, even though, like I said, it's not as plentiful. The availability of AK ammunition in general, the steel case stuff we're all used to being really cheap, that is a different story for another day, but I'll touch on this real quick. Without getting real deep into it, the reason I bought this rifle is because that ammunition was so cheap. That's another benefit. You had hard-hitting, pretty good accuracy ammunition out of a decent platform, and you could shoot it super cheap. That's not the case anymore, but like I said, that's a different argument for a different video. With all that said, let's get these things side by side and compare. So let's start with a Mutant. We do have your typical AR-15 type of design. It's actually kind of an intermediate. It's not exactly an AR-15, it's not an AR-10. The bolt that is in here is in between the two. But we do have a normal gas system that pushes a normal bolt carrier group back into this buffer. Typical rail, typical controls, everything like that, until we get to the lower. The lower is a little bit different. As you can see, there's not the AR-15 style magwell, and as you can see here, there is a tab release for the rock and lock magazine. You do have to lock it back into place. On this side of the gun, you can see there are no controls here. So there is no lock back on empty. So upon your last round, boom, it does lock close. You can usually feel a difference, maybe hear and feel a difference, but I don't like that. I like it much better when it actually just locks back. But it is the way it is for this rifle in particular. You can get magazines that have the lock open followers, but then as soon as you take the magazine out, the bolt drops, and that's its own set of problems. Usually when you're shooting real fast, you know you're out because you get a click, no bang. But that's also no different than your typical AK. We do have a Magpul style stock on here, so that's pretty convenient. There's a mil-spec trigger in here, and I will say that this trigger guard, until you've used it a lot or done something to it, it is very sharp from the factory. You can see that this one is worn and smoothed and beaten up a little bit. And I will say that these tabs can get a little bit in the way and snag on gear. I don't like that. You can see that this one isn't able to snag anymore, but it is still a problem. If it hooks on your gear, you will drop a magazine on the ground. I would much rather that they had a very tiny tab like the AK has. But being the AR-15 style and having this rail on here, you of course can put whatever grips, lights, extra sights, whatever you want, your typical AR-15 type muzzle devices or anything else you want, quick detach points for slings, and having your standard top rail, you can very securely mount things like red dots. I love this gun. I've had thousands and thousands of rounds through it. I've taken it to class over and over again. I really do love it. I will tell you the problems that I've had with it really quick. One time the gas key came unstaked and undone. CMMG took care of me, no problem on that. and twice I have had an extractor wear down because primarily we're shooting this Wolf or Tula steel case ammunition, and when you have a steel extractor dragging on a steel extractor groove over and over again, they will thin out. So twice I've had to replace the extractor, but I shoot the crap out of this gun. Other than that, really minimal malfunctions. Out of thousands and thousands of rounds, there might have been 1 or 2 jam ups. I can't really remember specifically, but nothing that's actually stood out in my mind like it's a problem. Moving on to the AK, like I said, this is your typical AK. It's got an old stiff safety in here, nothing special. It can take, of course, the Rock and Lock magazines. There is a mag pull grip on here, mil-spec trigger, nothing special. It's got the wood furniture here and the gas tube. I mean, it's got the slant muzzle device over here. This one in particular does have an M4 style buttstock because I really can't stand the small size of the wood AK stock. They're not that comfortable. You don't get a good cheek weld. Not that you get a good cheek weld here with this. It does need a riser of some sort. I'll take care of that later, but for now, just at least having the adjustability was something I needed. The optics situation on an AK is always going to be a hard thing to deal with. You're either going to have to use something here on this dust cover, and believe me, that dust cover, it moves around, and you don't want to put something on there if you care about 100% repeatable accuracy. Some of the dust cover oriented rails can be pretty solid, but supposedly, I don't know, I don't use them, supposedly the zeroing can be an issue. Now, the side mounts here that a lot of AKs have, they make really good side mounts nowadays, and then you can mount your optic here on something that comes over, gets back up on top of that barrel just fine, and with a red dot on a gun like this, in a side mount like this, it typically doesn't move, stays very accurate. Now, is the AK very accurate? That's a different story, but the red dots seem to work great on things like this. Of course, you can change things around on these rifles. You can put all kinds of handguards on here. You can find ways to put quick detach mounts here and there. I think this is one, yep. And you can put a plethora of different muzzle devices on them now. Now, what are some of the cons here of this specific rifle for me? Accuracy is not the best, which I will show you, compared to something like the Mutant or your typical AR. Like I said, not the perfect stock situation, and overall not as comfortable with this wooden grip situation up here up front. Having the exposed gas port here can get very hot. You gotta be careful, you can burn the crap out of yourself. Mine is a little bit wonky. It does have the famous WASR-10 slightly canted barrel, and so to get this thing accurate with iron sights, I have to have my front post moved way over. It's very annoying, but it works. Other than that, this gun is super reliable. I like it a lot. I've shot it a lot. I have so many rounds to this thing, and I don't think that this thing, I can't say that this thing is really ever jammed on me, ever. This thing just runs and runs, clean or dirty, wet or dry. So let's quit talking and let's get to shooting both of these. So let's just start off on some steel. We're about 25 yards off that steel plate right there. Like I said, this safety right here, very stiff. I don't like to run this safety. I do like the AR style safeties if I have to run them at all. You do in class, you do on ranges. I personally don't like to even use safeties on rifles. I don't really want to get into that argument, but I hate them. So not having this be a good, nice, easy safety to use, it just makes me use it less. But that's okay in my opinion. You guys probably have different opinions. But simple to charge. I love side charging handles as opposed to charging handles back here. I don't like those. The ability to reach over and charge like that or charge on the side, I like that a lot. As far as that trigger, you do have to make it through some of that trigger, but then it just goes off, it breaks, you know it breaks. It's hard to do a C-clamp like you're used to on something like an AR because your thumb will get in the way. It does want you to grab it from underneath unless you're okay with having your thumb in the way, which occludes some of your vision. So let's go take a look at that real quick. Nothing special. They're all where they need to be. Not hard to do at all. You can actually shoot this thing very fast. AKs kind of have, I'll put the muzzle up here. AKs, especially with a slant break, have kind of a circular recoil pattern where an AR might do kind of a jump and back and settle back down. AKs almost always do a loop. So that's something to take into consideration when you're shooting an AK, especially fast. So can we shoot it fast? Sure. And at least this one will run every time. Can we hit things at distance like that 12-yard plate out there? Yes. But we'll check actual accuracy here in a moment. But as far as the feel of this gun, I do like it. I love having that extra power. On this particular gun, I use one of these slings that has a little bit extra bungee on it. I find that just helps me if I need to get into the handguard a little bit, or in general, I can keep it up, but I can always kind of get it adjusted and into my shoulder where I do need it. All right, I'll have camera guy focus on my trigger finger a little bit. You have with these AK triggers, at least this one, it's a steady take up. You'll eventually rock over something that'll let loose. Boom, there it let loose. It doesn't give you a whole lot to let you know it's about to happen. The reset, though, on the AK is usually definite. You heard and felt and saw that. Roll back in. There you go. I have one round in there, but that's good enough for this. Camera guy's gonna give me an up, and I'm just gonna see how fast I can acquire that target. I mean, I haven't been practicing or anything, but just to show you that you can use the red dots on these guns. Camera guy, whenever you're ready, give me an up. Up. That was actually pretty slow, but you get the point. All right, now we got the good old Mutant, my total favorite. This is actually one of my favorite rifles of all time. I don't like how we have to do the typical AR type of rack, but hey, that's just how it goes. And this tab, like I said, this tab will hook on your gear, so be careful. It's easy when you do the smack reloads. They come out just as easy as anything, but I mean, they come out very easy, so I don't like that. They just fall right out. I have to keep pointing that out because it is a thing. So we're just gonna mess around on that steel real quick. I will tell you right now, it's a much easier recoil impulse. Let's go take a look at the steel. I didn't shoot as accurately, but I also wasn't trying very much. But it is a much better recoil impulse, like I said. And you might have noticed, if you were paying attention, my gun's unsafe. When I have this style of firearm in my hand, I typically run the safety just naturally because I've taken it to so many classes. I don't do that with the AK. I don't know if that matters to you or not, but just thought I'd point it out. Can we shoot it fast? Yep. Can we shoot it far? Yes. All right, taking a look at the trigger, this is very much your AR style trigger. You're gonna have a little bit of take up, and then boom. Your reset, click, boom. So better trigger on this gun. And as far as red dot acquisition, camera guy, whenever you're ready, give me an up. Up. I pulled one off to the side, but I decided to take two for some reason. My first one smacked right in the middle. Let's do that one more time. Camera guy. Up. All right, not perfect, but you can definitely get your sights pretty quick. I'd say I could do it just about the same as the AK. There might be a little stagger with the AK, but I also put it on the AK a little bit farther. I know people are gonna go bonkers because I've got this back so far here on this AR type platform. That is something weird. I like it set forward on the AK. I don't feel as comfortable with it back as close to my eyeball, but right here, I like this set right here in the middle. And just like the AK, you're not gonna get a bolt hold open, so I'm out of ammo and I didn't even realize it. Annoying. All right, very simple accuracy testing. We're gonna do 5 rounds at 25 yards. We're gonna do 5 rounds at 100 yards. First up, AK. Left target. Let me turn that dot down a little bit. Put one in the gun, dummy. I think that was 5. Let's go check it out. All right, not holes and holes by far, but not a bad group. I'd say our widest point there was 1.5 inches. So at 25 yards, we have a 1.5 inch group. I promise you my red dot was settled right here in the center for every one of those shots. The red dot is a 1 MOA red dot. So it's not the best grouping, but let's see if the Mutant can beat it. And sorry, I forgot to mention it earlier, but we are using 122 grain full metal jacket, Wolf ammunition, old stuff. This stuff can't even be imported anymore, I don't think. This is like totally old school now. All right, 5 shots on the right target. I'm gonna take just as much time to give good shots here. All right, I think that was 5. Let's go take a look. All right, so that gun zeroed just a little bit differently. That's why I'm dropped down here a little bit. And as far as the group size, were just a little bit tighter. This group size is 1 1/4 instead of 1 1/2, so not that much better, but it's different. Let's take these things out to 100 yards. All right, 5 rounds on that left target down there. Let's see how we do at 100 yards. This might be a little tricky. I'm gonna turn down this red dot even a touch more. And even a touch more. If there was a bad shot, it was that one, but it might not be bad. I think those were 5 decent shots. I was able to keep the dot in the center of the target all the way out there with no magnification. I'm going to go right over to the Mutant, and we're going to hit the target on the right. To be able to see out there, I got to turn that dot down pretty low, so we're right on the edge of not even being able to see it. And this is definitely not going to be center of aim or point of aim, point of impact, because I don't have it zeroed for 100. If you guys haven't figured it out by now, I have it zeroed for 50 yards. So far, so good, I think. You guys are seeing it before I'm seeing it. Hopefully I don't shoot camera guy's camera. Alright, I think those were 5 good shots. Let's go take a look. Alright, you guys saw it happen, and this is very indicative of how these guns both shoot. Let's start with the AK. The first round was in here, and then you saw them going all over the place. So I don't remember the exact order, but you guys did see it. When we measure it out, we're at, that bullet impact is actually right there. I can see it, the center of it. We're at 6 3/4 inches. Now, sometimes I can get as good a groups as like 4 to 5 inches out of this gun, but more often than not, it is in the 6-inch range. It just opens up at distance, and hey, that's what this gun does. That's what WASRs do, maybe. That's what AKs do in general. I don't have a lot of other AKs to reference off of. I don't know the difference between milled, forged, all that stuff that they do, but I know that this one typically produces these groups. Moving on to the Mutant. I would say that that's pretty darn impressive. That group is covered by my hand easily. The first shot, surprisingly, was right here in the middle of the bullseye. Now, that's exactly where I aimed at, because I'm trying to get a reference point to make a good group. The gun is zeroed for 50, and my hold under for this gun, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. You have hold overs and hold unders. My hold under at 100 yards is 4 inches. And that makes a lot of sense, because that's about 4 inches below where I'm impacting here. So typically on a target like this, I would know to aim just a touch under the black, if I know my targets. But in general, I have to try to range it at 4 inches. This group is from center to center 3 3/4 inches. That's pretty darn good. And that's taking into account what might be kind of a cold bore shot. Going back to the AK, you can kind of almost say that that's a cold bore shot. Not totally cold bore. The gun was a little bit warm, but still, that was the first shot after a little cool down. This was the first shot after a little cool down. But difference between the AK and the Mutant is that once you actually settle in, and I was making decent groups, if we were to throw out that first one, then boom, I'm at 1 1/2 inch group, or 1 1/4 inch group, which is actually pretty cool, because that's what we were at 25 yards. So really good shooting at 100 yards. I've shot this gun at 100 yards multiple times, and I can usually keep them all in the black. And like I said, with my hold unders, many a times I've kept them in the 9 or even the 10 ring. This would basically be in the 10 ring. That's 1 1/4 inches, and the 10 ring itself is 1 3/4 inches. So that would have fit in there. So right now, a little bit of a spoiler alert. That's why I usually choose the Mutant over the AK right there, is long distance accuracy. Now, surprisingly, if you run some brass ammo through that Mutant, you would think, oh, we'd tighten up the group. We're putting brass ammo in there. Gotta be better stuff. At least with PMC bronze, which I know isn't the best, those groups will open up to 4 inches right away on that Mutant. I've never run it through the AK, so I don't know what it does in there. One more thing I want to test, hopefully we can get it before the light goes out, is velocity. Both of these guns have a 16-inch barrel, different muzzle devices, different operating systems, but the same ammunition. Let's see what we get, if we get. All right, let's take a look. 2336 out of the WASR-10. And 2419 out of the Mutant. Keep in mind that is Wolf ammunition, that it's not exactly match grade stuff. I don't know what the grain weights are or the charge is from round to round, but just an idea. And yes, I was rushing through that chronograph testing because we have like no light left right now. But we got the information. We showed you shootability, we showed you the ergonomics of the gun, just the basic design, we showed you some accuracy, and then we got the velocity, which translates to foot-pounds, if that matters. This isn't like a 10,000 round deep dive or anything like that. I've already put 10,000 rounds through these things combined, so I just tell you from my personal experience, I really like them both. They're both extremely reliable. I would buy both of them again. I will never get rid of either one of them. When it comes to which one I like better, that's hard to say. If I'm gonna use something for more of a CQB, home defense, you know, just close quarters thing where I got to keep this thing moving around in maybe tight confinement spaces, I'm going to want the AK, because going at short distances, I would want maneuverability, and I know I have reliability. Well, I also have reliability here with the Mutant for the most part, except for I have stripped out a couple, like I said, extractors. That is a little annoying. I make sure I have a good one, a new one on hand all the time, but you don't want that thing to go down in an actual firefight. I don't think that's going to happen with the AK, so it does scare me just a little bit with the AR components for reliability, even though this gun has treated me pretty good. Now, if I was going to have to take a long-term engagement, which would take that for what it's worth, I would probably take the Mutant no matter what, because it can hit more accurately out farther. I do like the ergonomics on this gun more. However, we do have a problem with, like I said, smacking that paddle off of gear and things like that. So I would actually have to work this gun around a little bit if it was for like a crap hit the fan type of situation or something like that. For home defense, they'll both work very well. You can, of course, mount accessories to this one a lot easier. They both accept red dots, at least simple ones, very easily. Both shootable. I'm sure you can upgrade triggers on both of them. I just never upgrade triggers. Now, if you had to hold me down to the fire and say, crap hit the fan, you don't have any extra parts, you'll never get any extra parts, you'll never get service for your gun again, I'm probably going to take the WASR just for ultimate reliability. And if I had to make these purchases all over again here in 2024, I don't think I would buy this Mutant. Let me explain why. I actually wouldn't buy the AK either, most likely, but I definitely wouldn't buy the Mutant. Here's my reasoning. It's this cheap steel case ammunition that we're no longer able to get. Sure, companies are coming online, they're producing steel case ammunition, but we're never gonna see this cheap imported Russian steel case stuff. I don't think we're ever gonna see it at the prices we used to get it. Now, you used to pay about 189 banana leaves to get 1,000 of these things dropped off at your front door. That's no longer the case. You're looking at more like 500 banana leaves, something like that. If it's anything soft point, hollow point, defensive ammunition, if it's anything brass case, American made, you're talking up to like 750 banana leaves to get that crap to your door. That's ridiculous. That really took away the point of me owning a Mutant. I liked, like I said, the heavy hitting cartridge, but also the ability to train with it, stack up with it, you know, stack up your ammo, and just use it, have fun with it at a very affordable price. You can't get 5.56 at a decent price now. You can't get AK ammunition definitely at a decent price now. It's more expensive than 223, whereas 5 years ago, definitely AK ammo was the cheapest of the bunch. So buying an AK, sometimes that's a necessity because people just want an AK, and it's a little bit cheaper usually to get an AK than it would be to get a Mutant. You're still gonna have to pay for the ammo. But to buy the Mutant for like close to 2,000 banana leaves and then have to buy that really expensive ammo on top of it, not really that accurate, a lot of not good choices anymore for it. I don't know if I'd go that route at all anymore. If I'm gonna pay that kind of money and I want something that's somewhat the equivalent, and especially for brass availability and reloadability, I'd be looking at something like 300 Blackout real quick, especially if I wanted subsonic capabilities, or if I want to keep the same idea but crank it up a little bit with power, I'd be going for the 300 Hammer. In my opinion, the days of the cheap AK ammo is gone, so I think the AK idea and the 7.62x39 idea is going to slowly start to go away unless we can find alternatives. Or unless somebody stops these stupid bans that are in place. But for now, I own them both and I love them both, and I'm glad I could share them with you. Let me know in the comments which one you would buy if you have either one of them. What do you think about the whole 7.62x39 thing? Do I have any valid points? And notice my nerves of steel. I didn't even flinch from that four-wheeler backfire. But then again, we basically live on a gun range. If you found this video helpful, maybe give it a thumbs up and a share. That always helps. If you're not subscribed to the Turkey's Opinion channel, you're missing out. We do all kinds of gel tests, gun reviews, news, live chats, all sorts of stuff. Definitely check out our playlist. I'm sure you're going to find something there you'll be interested in. If you really think we're doing a good job, we are on Patreon and we do have the YouTube join button turned on. We appreciate everybody that's already there. And thank you to everybody who just watches, shares, likes, and comments. That's also very helpful. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you at the next one. And until we do, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting.